Hi friends, welcome to Raising Lifelong Learners. I'm your host, Colleen Kessler, and this is the podcast where I encourage you to trust yourself and your differently wired kiddos as you help cultivate their curiosity, encourage them to discover the world around them, embrace who they are wired to be, all while helping them discover their passions, interests, and raise them to become the amazing adults they're meant to be. Hey, welcome back. This is episode 207. I am so glad you're here. Thank you. Today we are talking all about being open to new ideas of what homeschooling might look like for your family. A lot of us get ideas in our head about what our typical homeschool day is going to look like, and then we realize we're not really raising typical kiddos, and so we can't have that picture-perfect, Instagram-worthy homeschool day that we were thinking of, where we just pull a box of curriculum off the shelf and use it as is and as it's written. And so we need to make some adjustments. And in this episode, we're going to talk all about that and hopefully take a mindset shift so that we're excited about the possibility of tackling homeschool on our own terms instead of feeling overwhelmed and nervous about the idea that our homeschool just can't look like what we thought homeschooling was supposed to look like. So grab your earbuds, pop them in, tackle some dishes or some laundry, or go get a snack and hole up for a little while and get some professional development for homeschool moms in so you can start off this year with a bang and just get ready to thrive in this new school year that's coming up. All right, let's get on with today's episode. You have atypical children. You have neurodiverse kids. They are gifted. They are twice exceptional. They have anxiety, perfectionism, sensory processing disorder. They are on the autism spectrum. They have any number of neurodiversities. I am right there with you. It is possible to thrive as a homeschooler. It really, truly is. And I believe with my whole heart that homeschooling is the best possible educational choice for kids like ours. And I'm here to help you with that. So today, we're going to talk about opening your mind to new possibilities. This is a new norm. It's a different kind of education, and it's exciting. You have the opportunity, and you want to be open to it and all the others that come to you, to designing a homeschool, an educational trajectory for your neurodiverse, quirky, creative, amazing kiddo in any way you want. And it's empowering when you let go and lean in and then allow yourself to be open to the possibilities. Oftentimes, we as parents of neurodiverse kids and potentially neurodiverse parents ourselves homeschool our kids from a place of fear. What if they're never, ever going to have a friend? What if they don't get into college? What if this kiddo who's barely functioning never is able to brush his teeth himself? What if he can't ever go to a hair salon for a haircut? This was actually a real fear of mine for a long, long time. 2 of my 4 children struggled with both anxieties and sensory challenges in relation to getting their haircut. It was traumatic for all of us. All of them, both of them, are able to go get their haircut now. One is in her teens, one is a young adult. When Trevor was young, everything caused extreme sensory challenges. Everything, any unknown caused trauma, and he couldn't get his haircut. It just the idea of those clippers and scissors getting close to him freaked him out to an incredible degree. And Logan was terrified of it. She couldn't articulate exactly what it was, and so she just decided she was going to be Rapunzel when she grew up. So she had a reason for not cutting her hair. And then one day, she learned about wigs for kids and realized that there were children who could use the hair she had grown down to her bottom and she asked if she could donate her hair, and she chopped her hair off shoulder length. It was incredible. 16 inches, I think, ended up being donated. We can lay out these fears, and we should. The first step to opening our minds and ourselves to the possibilities and the opportunities that are coming our way while homeschooling our quirky kids is to just lay it all out. What are our fears? What are we really afraid of? Journal about it. Journal about what your actual fears for your child's future are and what relation homeschooling has to that. Are you afraid they're never going to get into college? Write it out. Jot it down. Put all the bullet points why that's a fear of yours, a tangible fear, and lay it out in a journal. Talk to a friend about it. And then at some point, find mentors or read about it or learn from it. I was terrified about college, about the future. I'm not a parent who thinks that the only road to success lies in higher education or college. I am fully aware that especially in today's society, there are loads and loads of different ways our kids can be successful in their future. And so I was not pushing this on any of my children. My oldest graduated high school, did not want to go to college, had no designs on it at all, wanted to take a gap year just to kind of be, which was the right choice for him, just to let him be a teenager from the age of 18 to 19 and kind of sleep in, blow things off, hang out with friends. And it was a good year. And his original goal was to build his freelance business and keep working on that and not go to college. And out of the blue, a couple weeks ago, he said he wanted to go to a local community college that has a 2-year video production and media technology degree with the potential of possibly transferring after the 2 years are up, but maybe not. Maybe just doing the 2-year degree and then building his business from there. And guess what? It's possible to even do that with a couple weeks' notice. My friend Sarah McKenzie from Read Aloud Revival, one of the things she says that has always stuck with me because she's got a kiddo 2 years ahead of mine and then one a year behind my oldest, where they're kind of sandwiched together. So she had somebody in college before we got there. And she said, colleges want to take your money. They want your money. They need good students. They need people who are invested in their future. Well, a kid who recognized that they weren't ready to go and now they are ready to go is a very appealing student candidate. And so by laying out those fears and realizing that there are multiple paths to the same end and there are multiple ends available to our quirky, differently wired kids can be empowering. So take the time to lay those fears out in your journal, in conversations with your spouse, with your friends, with trusted friends, and figure out what your actual fears are. When you give them voice, you allow them to live, breathe, and then be done. And if you don't give them voice, they keep preying on your mind. They keep circling and cycling and showing up as these big unknowns. So give them voice, give them space, recognize that they're just and valid and real, and then move on. Then reframe some of those. Remember, fear is reactionary. It is primal. Fear tells our body something could go wrong. It triggers the fight, flight, freeze response so that we can protect ourselves. Our bodies can't always differentiate between perceived fears and actual fears. And so we live, especially as homeschool parents of neurodiverse kids, in this constant state of alert. I was just talking with a good friend of mine about this because she has kids very similar to mine, relationships very similar to mine. And we talked about living in that constant state of fear as the person who is responsible for the family structure, the grocery shopping, the house, keeping it all together in organization, the homeschooling, the scheduling of multiple children who have very intense needs, desires, interests, passions, schedules. And we live in this reactionary state. And so by laying it out in our journals or to another person, we can, again, give it that voice, be reactionary in the pages of our journal. And then, as fear tells us all the things that could go wrong, we can actively work to reframe it for ourselves. If fear is telling you that kiddo who is passionate about their own interests and learnings and is not listening to you and always talking over you again and again and again is never going to listen, never going to be able to take instruction, and always going to be out of control, you can reframe that in your head to instead, if my kiddo doesn't listen, they're going to be out of control and not be a productive member of society, to this is really frustrating. It's frustrating for you because you're trying to get words out, or them because they're trying to get these words out all the time. It's frustrating for me because I need to be able to move on with my day and have you listen to me as much as you're having me listen to you. But we can keep working at this together until we figure it out and find a way to meet in the middle where I'm helping him or her being a better listener and participant in the conversation. And I'm being more patient with my kiddo who has things they want to say. So lay those thoughts out, reframe them so you're coming at them in a positive way from the approach of positivity. And as you're doing those things, find community. I mentioned the friend that I was just talking with about these same fears and things that are going on in our lives, and this idea of being in a constant state of reaction and primal needs. Fear thrives when we're isolated. It preys on our mind. It tricks us. Dr. Dan Peters, in his book, Make Your Worrier a Warrior, talks about the worry monster, fear being this monster in our kids' brains. It's the same in ours. And when we feel alone in our fears and our worries and our expectations, it grows bigger and bigger and bigger. So when we lay it out and give it a name and reframe it, and then have a community of others who love us and our kids for exactly who they are, we create this new way of being that allows us to relax in those fears and see the possibilities in front of us. Talk to people about what you're going through. Talk to trusted people about what you're going through. I had a friend, so I had an acquaintance. I realized after the fact that it wasn't a real true friend. Years ago when I first started homeschooling, that I thought really we got along. It was someone who was very close to me and had been before we started homeschooling. It was a person with whom our families were close. It was a person that not only were we close, but our families were close. We went to each other's holiday parties and family holiday parties and birthday parties and things like that. And I would talk about the struggles that I was having with my oldest at the time because he was so outside the box and so the antithesis of what typical parenting books talked about, that I just felt like I was swimming upstream all day, every day. And she listened and she offered suggestions and she empathized, and I thought that she got it. And we were at a party once, and this kiddo loved adults, loved knowing about the real world, the adult world, and jobs that they were doing. And she had a couple family members who were very algorithmic and engineering brains and coding and all of the things that he was interested in. And he would spend the entire party talking with these family members of hers. And I thought it was great. You know, here he's being accepted. He loves this. They love him. They're talking to him like he's a person, not a bothersome child. And she pulled me aside when we were out a couple weeks later to tell me that she thinks that either we shouldn't be going to the family parties anymore, or we should be coaching our kids about when they're at a party, a multi-age party, they should be spending time with the kids because the adults just want to watch football and talk. And it's intrusive to have an 8-year-old tagging along with them every moment of the party. And I was just so floored because academically, these were my son's peers. And he didn't want to play with the girls who were younger than him or his own siblings who he saw all the time. He wanted to talk with these really interesting people who had great, interesting conversations with him. And so you want to make sure that you're talking with safe people. You're finding community with people who get your kids and get you, whether that's in person or online. It's one of the reasons we founded the Learners Lab community and why we encourage families, if they can't find somewhere locally to be in person with other quirky and neurodiverse families, they find something online where their kids and that they themselves can be accepted for who they are and find similarities. So they at least have someone or a group of someones to connect with on a regular basis. The Learners Lab community is open a couple times a year. We try to keep it closed so we can really focus on the members on a day-to-day basis. And then when we open it, we know we're going to be bringing new members in so we can work on all of the glitches that go along with getting acclimated to a new community. And so we open it usually in the fall, usually in the spring, and usually in the summer. And so we'll put a link in the show notes where you can go and get on the wait list if it's not currently open when this episode airs. And occasionally, if I'm at a speaking event, if you're on that wait list, you'll get an invitation to sign in because we've opened the sign-in page for the convention goers. And so we give waitlist people a couple extra chances throughout the year to join if they want to. So check that out if you don't have local community. Otherwise, find another one yourself. You can search for groups on Facebook, at your local library, but find other parents who you can connect with because we always tend to think we're the only ones struggling. We're the only ones who have outside the box kids. We're the only one who has kids that can't sit still or can't do the chore that they've been doing for a week, like forget how to do it, or can't follow multi-step directions even though they're 15 or whatever. Connecting with other parents who are willing to be open helps to keep you from repeating the same frustrating cycles again and again and again. It also helps those parents because usually there are inside of groups parents who are at different places along the road of homeschooling. I mentioned my friend Sarah, who has a child older than my oldest, and then there's my oldest, and then there's her next one, and then there's her next one, and then there's my next one, and then there's my next one, and then she's got a couple others underneath that, and then there's mine, and then so we go kind of every other. So we're always in a stage that either somebody just left or somebody is going into. And so you want to find parents who are at different places along the journey than you are so you can all feed and help each other. Okay, so clearly you know that I love CTC Math. They are sponsoring the podcast this season, so I'm talking about it all season long. But I want to make sure that you know a couple different features. I've talked about how it's great flexibility-wise, but let me tell you a little bit more about that flexibility. First of all, you get, like I've said before, unlimited access to all lessons across all grade levels. That means one subscription gives you kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade math, basic math, pre-algebra, elementary measurement, elementary geometry, all of those things that kids in middle school might need to review before going on to high school math. It gives you Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry, trigonometry, pre-calc, and calculus. It's amazing. So you get all of those levels with one subscription. One of the things I love most, though, is a new feature that they've rolled out, all about mastery-based education, meaning they give kids the chance to continue going through a concept until they reach the highest level of difficulty in that particular concept. So if you're using it for a mastery-based approach and you use this feature, every time your kiddo answers a question, the program chooses the next question based on an adaptive algorithm. And what that means is the questions adjust in difficulty based on your kiddo's ability, meaning those kids who are motivated to do more and well in math and really enjoy it can challenge themselves to attempt a wider range of questions, building this solid foundation. It unlocks questions that are more and more challenging with a greater depth for those kiddos who are math-based math thinkers and think that they want to get into some kind of math career. And it increases confidence and their enjoyment of math overall for those kids, like I said, who are really mathy. Parents have a better measure of their kiddos' understanding of the lesson. They can identify gaps in their kiddos' knowledge where maybe further work might be needed. And it allows them to facilitate an individualized learning approach to math so your kiddos are truly learning at their own pace. It's amazing. You can check out the description of the mastery-based approach along with a short video explaining it at ctcmath.com/mastery, or you can go over to the show notes for this episode and you can click on the CTC Math link to find out more. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to reach out, and let's get back to today's episode. Okay, as you do these things, as you start to do these things, laying your fears out, reframing them, and finding community, it helps to get all of that off your shoulders so you are ready now to tune in to the possibilities of designing your own educational experience. I talk a lot here on the podcast, over on the site, on social media about delight-directed education, interest-led, student-driven. They're all names for similar things. But following your kids' interests, embracing their passions, their talents, their gifts, their creativity, and running with it. Designing, Andrew Pudawa said at a conference I was at with him recently, this past year, that when he's asked about building high school transcripts, he always says, know what you need to have on the transcript. Know what you need according to your state laws or the colleges they're going into. But do what you want to do. Do what builds a rich education for you and your child, and write what you need to. So for a while, history for us looked like 2 days a week reading from a history textbook or a history book or a set of books. 2 days a week watching documentaries about the time period. And 1 day a week meeting over hot chocolate and coffee and talking about the differences, the things we could learn from it. There was not a written word in there. There were no essays. There were no comprehension questions. There were no dioramas, memorization of dates, timelines, nothing. But the kids who I did that with know a ton about history. They can see when history repeats itself. They can see what people have learned and how things have changed and how things haven't changed, because we did what we wanted and what made for a rich conversation and relationship building experience within our home. But on a transcript, that looks like History 1 and History 2, or American history and world history. You can call it what you need to call it and do it how you want to do it. And I loved when he said that. In fact, he simply said, do what you want, write what you need. And he says it again and again and again. You are in charge of your homeschool. So tune in to what your kids love, how they learn best, what lights them up, what lights you up, what will keep you all going. Trust your gut. Your intuition tells you that sometimes something seems counterproductive to your family. Sometimes something could be done in a different way. We need to use the advice, hear the advice from friends, books, blogs, TikToks, reels, videos on YouTube, whatever, wherever we get our advice from. We need to hear it, but we need to trust our own gut and our own intuition when it comes to what we do with that. We have to filter out the unhelpful voices and do what we know in our gut our kids and what's going to make them thrive. So that reading books, that might be watching videos, that might be talking over coffee, that might be going on walks and talking about everything that's in the world around you and calling it science. That might be finding a mentor. That might be taking 3 years off of math coming back to it when you're all whole and sound and mature and secure, and knocking out 2 years in a year so you can begin to catch up. It looks like what you need it to look like for your family to thrive. It might look like, and there was a time my son did this, he would study one subject a week per month. He would do a week of science, a week of history, a week of math, a week of language arts. And then he'd filter in art projects and coding projects and video projects and other things on his own. But he liked to just go all in on stuff. Sometimes he did it like 1 day a week per subject. And some days he did it more typically. Whatever you need, tune into it. And then here's the best thing, the best advice I can give you for being open to new possibilities and just being excited about it. Be brave. Be brave. When you start tuning in to what you really need, what your kids really need, and what you know deep down in your gut is the right thing for you and yours, be brave about it. Not everyone's going to understand what you do and why you do what you do. You need to trust yourself. You need to trust your family. You need to trust that intuition that you were given for this very reason. I've said it before. I'll say it again and again and again. You are the absolute best parent for the children you have. You're also the absolute best teacher for the kids that you have. My husband is still teaching in the public schools. He is a reading specialist. Side note, I'm trying to convince him to come into the Raising Lifelong Learners business and start offering consultations to families who have struggling readers. He's an amazing reading teacher. So if that's something that you would be interested in, please feel free to reach out, because there are a couple people who have reached out, and the more people I have interested in consulting and getting some coaching from him, the more I could convince him to actually do this, because he'd be amazing with your kids. But he's still in the public schools. And you know what he said to me last week as he was getting ready to go back to school for the year? He said to me, I am so glad that we took this chance 14 years ago and did this, because it was the right decision for our kids, and they have gotten a much better education than they would have ever gotten going to a traditional school, and they are such better people than they would have been. Trust yourself and be brave. Not everyone's going to understand you. Not everyone's going to get you and your kids, but the right people are, and your kids will thank you someday. They will. You will know you did the absolute best that you could, and that you took advantage of the opportunities and opened yourself to the possibilities. You've got this, and I'm so proud of you already, because you're getting out there every day and doing it. If you have any question, any concerns, reach out. The contact form is always shared over in the show notes page. There's a link to it. So if you go to the show notes for this episode, raisinglifelonglearners.com, you'll find links to resources related to the idea and topic of being open to new possibilities. And you'll find links to our sponsor, CTC Math. Thank them if you get a chance. If you're using CTC Math, send me your thoughts. I've had a couple people recently send me a couple messages, and I've shared them with CTC. It's been really great feedback for them. They've enjoyed it, and they're open to improving too. You'll also find a link to a voicemail widget where you can leave me up to a 5-minute voicemail message, and I can get back to you in a variety of ways with that. And you can also link to the contact form, which is really a direct email into the inbox. Or you can always just email us at support@raisinglifelonglearners.com. We are here for you. We want to support you so you can have the best homeschool year ever, and so you trust yourself. Have a great week. Share this episode if you know somebody who needs this kind of encouragement because they're homeschooling neurodiverse or atypical kiddos, and let them know that we are here for them. If you get a chance, leave a rating or review over in Apple Podcasts or wherever it is you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing. And like I mentioned earlier, if you're looking for information about the Learners Lab, our community for families who are homeschooling quirky, outside the box, atypical, and creative kiddos and their families, you can find the link on the show notes to get on our wait list. I will be back next week with another tip and strategy to help you go from surviving your atypical homeschool to thriving for the whole family. So tune in then, same time, same place. Bye for now.